Welcome to the official Rules and Regulations training program for Sport MMA as laid down by the Global Authority for Mixed Martial Arts Federations. I begin by asking the question, why the need of Sport MMA? The sport of mixed martial arts in the existing scenario is full contact in nature, where athletes must attempt to defeat their opponents by knockout, submission, or a judge's decision based on aggression, effective striking, submission and grappling, and cage control. This nature of the current MMA rules is accepted globally, and competitions are held all over the world for athletes who are of the minimum age of 18 years. The primary reason that in most parts of the world athletes are required to sign indemnity waivers before they compete is because of the high risk of competing in mixed martial arts. The primary reason that these athletes sign these documents is because the individuals who engage in mixed martial arts competitions cannot be minors. The current sport of MMA is high risk, and the risk factor is only reduced by 1. Proper pre-fight training, 2. Experienced, trained MMA officials, 3. Expert and specialized medical professionals in attendance with a proper understanding of the sport of MMA, 4. Cardiac ambulances with paramedics to deal with emergency situations, 5. Pre-fight medical screening for athletes to avoid the risk of them competing with pre-existing injuries. All of these scenarios present a not so welcoming, a not so accepted for minors, a not so accepted scenario for anybody under the age of 18. Now, contrary to the existing training formats for competitive MMA, what is needed is a progression system of MMA training where those who wish to learn, practice, and train must have a training syllabus which is based on the complete entity of MMA in itself, rather than mixing and matching different styles. For example, boxing, karate, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and applying the methods to competitive MMA. The Global Authority for Mixed Martial Arts Federations has created such a progression pathway by introducing the concept of Sport MMA. Students as young as 5 years old are able to start training and competing in a set of mixed martial arts based, mixed martial arts inspired rules, namely striking, takedowns, ground control, and submissions. And they're allowed to train and practice these techniques in a non-full contact nature, non-aggressive nature, where the objective is not to knock out, where the objective is to win by points. Under the guidelines laid down by the Global Authority for Mixed Martial Arts Federations, Sport MMA may be practiced by students of all ages as long as they're competing within the prescribed weight categories as laid down by GAMAF. The three broad categories are under 12, under 18, and over 18. These categories are further subdivided into small subdivisions to comply with local athletic commissions, and further categorized into specific weight categories. The sparring formats in sport MMA are light contact and semi-contact. Now, to further elaborate the need and the requirement of sport MMA in the current scenario is that it requires people with a background of an individual or a cross-trained martial art. So a martial artist would be required to train in Muay Thai, in boxing, in kickboxing, in wrestling, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, develop training in that style, attain a significant number of years preparing in that style, and then possibly at the age of 18 join an MMA gym or hire an MMA coach, and then start to put that knowledge together into cross-training. However, the original background of their training was in individual styles. What GAMAF is offering through Sport MMA is to start to prepare martial arts students from as early as the age of 5, the accepted age for most children to begin training in the martial arts, for them to be prepared by giving them the mindset of the complete mixed martial arts training. So the students are taught the rules and regulations of sport MMA competition. So they are taught the significance of striking. They're taught the significance of takedowns and wrestling. They're taught the significance of ground control, ground fighting, and submissions. But they're also taught to exercise restraint. So they're not allowed to knock their partner out. Rather, a knockout would be a prohibition and grounds for disqualification. And the same way, when they're engaging in wrestling and takedowns and attempting a submission, the referee watches for the practitioner to not necessarily complete the submission, but rather look for the technique and the application and execution of the technique rather than the completeness and the choke out. So you would actually see a referee stopping the fight when a practitioner has actually applied the correct technique, but not necessarily completed the technique with a full-on choke out or tap out. I will now begin by explaining the first and most popular of the sport MMA formats, light contact. In light contact sparring, there exists just one round. The time is 2 minutes, a maximum time for preliminary till semi-final rounds, and then a 3 minutes max time for final rounds. Prohibitions. Full contact is not allowed in sport MMA. Techniques must be either very close or light touch. The referee's discretion will be final whether a technique was legal or not. Uniform. All types of martial arts uniforms are allowed. For above 18, shorts and rash guards are permitted. T-shirts are not permitted. Mandatory protective wear. Mouth guards, gum shields, sport MMA gloves, and groin guards. In certain events, certain promoters and organizers might decide to use shin guards and head guards. The use of body protectors is usually discouraged just because it reduces the effectiveness of grappling. Target areas. All front and side targets of the upper body are legal. Below waist techniques will not be awarded with a point. front of the face, the chest, the stomach, and ribs are targets which will be awarded with a full score. The definition of a technique: a punch, a kick, a throw, a submission. This is the definition of a technique in sport MMA. The definition of a score or a point: a combination of techniques result in a score or a full point. For example, 2 punches and 1 kick, or 2 kicks and 1 punch equals a full score for striking. A throw, a sweep, a takedown, followed by a finish-off punch equals a full point for takedowns or a takedown score. The scoring criteria: the first player to score 3 full points, or the player with the higher score at the end of the time limit, wins the bout. The 3-point scoring criteria may be increased to 5 points for heavier weight categories or above 18 athletes, or as agreed by a prior resolution by GAMAF with the organizers of the event. The Sport MMA Tournament Committee will take a final decision on these matters. In the 5-point max system for heavier players, the exponents may use any of the scores repeatedly only after they've completed 1 score each of the mandatory scores. In the 3 points max score, the players can use each scoring type only once. That is, if they finish the striking score, the takedown score is remaining, they can only attempt the submission score to complete the win of the fight. That is, if they finish the striking score and the takedown score, they can only attempt the submission score to complete the win. However, this does not restrict them from using repeated scores to try and confuse the opponent or to use them as a setup or a build-up to the finish-off score. So a further definition of the scoring criteria is that each of the players from the red corner or the blue corner have the ability to use 3 types of scores. 1, the striking score. The striking score is 2 punches and 1 kick, or 2 kicks and 1 punch. These techniques must be used as a combination rather than a single punch or a single kick. So if the red corner charges in and uses 2 punches to the body and a face kick, that is a complete score for striking. If the blue corner, for example, uses a front kick and a spinning back kick and then a Superman punch to the face, that is treated as a complete score. So the combination of these techniques award a full point or a score. This is treated as 1 point and not 3 points. The reason for this is because in sport MMA, we're training students not to be just using single techniques, but a combination of techniques, which again builds that mindset for MMA. After the striking score, now the red corner has the option to use a takedown score and a submission score. For the takedown score, the red corner can set up using punches and kicks, grab a hold of the gi, or grab a hold of the waist, grab a hold of a single leg, execute a takedown or a throw or a sweep, and once the opponent falls to the ground, the red corner must complete with a finish-off technique of punch or series of punches. And again, all these techniques are to be applied without power, without the intention to hurt the blue corner. On the ground, the red corner must now attempt to use a submission score. So if the fight is restarted from the standing, the red corner will now attempt to take down the blue corner, will not be awarded another takedown because they've already got the takedown score, and then work their way towards a submission. So the red corner must attempt to complete a striking score, one striking score, one takedown and completion score, and one submission score. These three scores, whoever reaches these three first becomes the winner, or the one leading at the end of the 2-minute or the 5-minute round is the winner. A full point defined. A player or athlete may use each of all of the three types of full point scores to win the competition. So a striking score, or a takedown score, or a submission score. Each of these techniques may be used only once in the case of the 3-point max scoring system by each player. The referee is allowed to prompt the players, reminding them regarding which score has already been used and which score type is still remaining. The striking score defined. A striking score is awarded when a player or athlete uses a combination of 2 punches and 1 kick, or 2 kicks and 1 punch together. Each of these 3 techniques must be executed as close to the opponent as possible. A kiai or shout is not mandatory but encouraged. The maximum gap between the first 2 techniques and the last techniques is 5 seconds. So in this situation, if the red corner uses 2 punches, the score is not complete, but within 5 seconds must complete that third technique or the kick for the referee to award that score. So the maximum gap between the first 2 techniques and the last technique is 5 seconds, after which the referee will signal a no score. Example: one player uses 1 body punch and 1 spinning back kick to the body, and then the opponent steps away outside the scoring reach. So the player must use the third technique before the end of 5 seconds after the spinning back kick. The takedown score defined. All techniques of throwing, takedown, and sweeping techniques followed by a finish-off punch to the fallen opponent will be awarded as a full point under a takedown score. For under 18s, the takedown needs to be a clean throw or sweep rather than a slam. Slams to the opponent back or head are prohibited. Pile driver, Undertaker style, prohibited. Above 18 users may use slams, but not spiking the opponent on his or her head. If after the takedown, the player is unable to follow up with the punch finish-off technique due to the opponent blocking him from the bottom, the player has up to 5 seconds to execute the follow-up finish, otherwise the referee will call a no score and allow the players to begin grappling on the ground. If within a reasonable amount of time, not more than 30 seconds, the standing player is blocked by the player on his or her back, the referee, due to stalemate, will resume the match with both players standing. The submission score defined. For under 18s, all submission techniques are allowed except neck cranks, leg locks, ankle locks, heel hooks, toe holds, knee reaping, and knee bars. These all are not allowed in the under 18s. The referee will brief both the red and blue corner regarding this prior to the commencement of the match, and for most under 18s, the referee will not necessarily wait for the submission to be completed. In almost all cases, the referee will jump in and award the submission score the moment he or she sees that it has been locked in, and not allow or risk the opponent to a dislocation, fracture, or injury. The decision will be as per the referee's final discretion. Ground techniques. The moment a ground game begins, both players are not allowed to use any forms of striking or ground and pound. So once the ground game begins, it becomes purely a grappling match and there's no ground and pound allowed. Prohibitions or illegal techniques. Neck cranks, all types of leg locks, ankle locks, heel hooks, toe holds, knee reaping, knee bars, spiking on the opponent's head is not allowed. Also, hair pulling, biting, using of swear words or shouting at the opponent, fish hooking, strikes to the groin, palm heel, and open hand strikes are not allowed. Chops or slashes are also not allowed. Below the waist kicks. As per the decision of the tournament committee, the players may or may not be allowed to use light contact low kicks to the legs of the opponent as long as it is a setup leading up to the legal techniques. Officials. 1 mat referee and 1 corner referee. Red corner judge and blue corner judge for the verification of scores. Mat referee and corner referee will each wear red and blue wristbands to announce the scores and the winners. The mat referee will move within the mat area and the corner referee will move exactly opposite to the mat referee to view any techniques which the mat referee may have missed. The mat referee will be the final authority, however, he may refer to the corner referee in any situations. There will always be one timekeeper. These were the prescribed sport MMA light contact rules for under 18s and over 18s as laid down by the Global Authority for Mixed Martial Arts Federations.